Let's backtrack to Saturday. We had a couple big games with newcomers in the Big Ten and the SEC, respectively. USC and Michigan, and then Oklahoma and Tennessee. Thankfully, we got the Tennessee pick right. I was going to pick Oklahoma there for a little bit, but I changed my mind. Tennessee ends up winning that one. Pretty, I don't want to say dominating performance. It wasn't like they destroyed them, but pretty solid performance against Oklahoma. The one I really want to talk about, though, USC and Michigan. My God. Michigan, Alex Orji, when you look at these stats, and watching the game, I know he didn't pass that many times, but just watching the game, you don't get the sense that this man had a QBR 26.7, was 7 for 12, and 32 yards passing. Now explain to me how you can win a game in 2024 with 32 yards passing. 300 yards rushing by the Michigan offense. I don't even know what else to say about that.
I think that maybe USC got confused on the day by thinking that, oh man, we must have scheduled our game against Army today. Michigan adopted to not go for Davis Warren and let Alex Orji take over for a full game. Alex Orji had played a little bit in some games prior, and actually, regardless of the results of of this game, has the same amount of touchdowns as Davis Warren. So, whatever. Switch to him, see if it works for the big game. And it does. But I don't know. I mean, he gets 43 rushing yards. He carries 13 times as a quarterback. That's more times than he threw the ball. He threw the ball 12 times, 7 for 12 for 32 yards. To put that in comparison, Tim Boyle came in for Skylar Thompson for the Dolphins, which, by the way, I would like to that to be the last time I ever talk about Skylar Thompson. And he threw 7 for 13 for about 80 yards. So Alex Orji goes 7 for 12 for 30 yards, averaging 2.7 yards per play.
32. Let's get it right. 32.
32.
Right.
My bad.
Give
My
us
bad.
32.
Averaging 2.7 yards to get himself up to 32. 7 for 12 is not a bad completion percentage. It's just a little like, you watch the game and you're like, huh? But on the flip side of that, despite the fact that USC has to do nothing to stop the passing game, all they got to do is lock in and make sure the running game doesn't go crazy. They let Kyle Mellings get 159 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 63-yard scamper. They let Donovan Edwards get 74 yards and a touchdown, including a 41-yard scamper. Alex Orji gets a 14-yard run. Frederick Moore, a man named Frederick in 2024, gets a 15-yard run on his one carry. It's a little ridiculous. I mean, the highest receiver for Michigan is Marlon Klein with 1 reception for 10 yards. You look over at USC, Zachariah Branch gets 98 yards. Jacoby Lane's got 50 yards and a touchdown. It doesn't matter. And it's not like USC gets dominated in this game, right? They lose 24-27. A big part of that loss is going to be a Miller Moss pick 6. He otherwise, he played all right. 28 for 51, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick. He rushed for negative 27 yards, so he probably wants to put that one behind him. But like he passes well. His pick 6 though is going to be a big one. They lose a fumble, but I don't get it. And I know you have a culprit before we turn to Oklahoma, Tennessee. I know you've got a big issue for USC in this one, but overall for this game, it's just like you don't have to do anything to stop the passing game. Maybe it's not like playing Army where they're just going to run. But at a certain point, I think you got to realize, all right, Alex Orji is not looking downfield. We are not going very far. The longest reception in the game for Michigan is 10 yards. The second longest is 9 yards. So like we're not getting too crazy. However, you are allowing 63, 41, 14, and 15-yard rushes. So I think USC maybe gets overwhelmed on the running game, which at a certain point you would think they would be able to adapt to. This has been a good team this season, and then a Miller Moss pick 6 is going to be really the biggest part, I think, that brings USC down in this one to cause both Terrence and I to be wrong on this pick. I'm not sure if Alex Orji will, be the guy going forward, but one of the things Sherrod Moore said was that, Davis Warren's 3 picks, I think he said he tried to say they're not a problem, but there's something they're looking at. In other words, that, Davis Warren throwing 3 picks in the last game was a problem. Alex Orji might not have thrown a touchdown, and he might not have thrown for 100 yards, but he did not throw a pick. and Michigan comes out of this game with a win. And Miller Mosh throws a pick six, and they lose by 3. So you could do with that what you will. But I know for Terrence that there's a secret mystery USC player that you would like to put on blast here as the as a big part of this loss. So I will pass it back to you before we move down to the SEC to wrap up how USC got ran all over.
Yeah, Mason Murphy, he was out there playing left tackle later in that game for USC. And it's not just him, like the whole offensive line was getting destroyed, but specifically on that left side, um, it was bad. I mean, and look, I know Josiah Stewart is that man was on fire. So I mean, to be fair, like they probably should have double teamed him. Should have had a tight end to chip like pretty much every play. Every time you drop back to pass, there should have been a tight end to help him there. But I mean, there are some times where it's like they would snap it, he'd look, and he's gone. Like he literally would turn to the left to stop Stewart, and he's already in the backfield. So yeah, Miller Moss, you mentioned a negative 27. Like
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't have negative 50 based off of how many times. Like I've never seen anything like this. I mean, it was insane. I'm surprised with that the game was as close as it was. And much of that was due to the fact that Michigan had, in the second half, up until that last drive, Michigan only had like 10 yards of offense. Alex Orji, of course, he didn't turn the ball over, but he didn't outside of the running, here and there, like he didn't really do too much. So I guess maybe you can say like, hey, he didn't make mistakes, he didn't screw it up, but I think they might be looking to another quarterback next week. But biggest thing for me is because both teams had turnovers. I mean, they had turnovers on the same play. Like you had a Miller Moss fumble, and then big dude from Michigan picks it up, and then it immediately gets the ball just literally stolen from him, like grabbed out of his hands like a loaf of bread, and they end up scoring a touchdown on broken coverage. But between that, between the offensive line not blocking worth a lick, and then obviously not being able to tackle on that huge scamper, like you said, from Mullings, who was the MVP of this game by far, that screwed USC in a game that they absolutely could have won.
Yeah. So we'll wrap that up. USC hence both Terrence and I lost as they take one. We'll take that, and move forward. Tennessee, however, comes through for us, gets us a win. I talked about Tennessee's kind of insane streak to start the season. They are still 4-0. However, in previous games, as we talked about in our picks video, they scored 69, 51, and 71. This one they come down to earth. They scored 25. Oklahoma's defense does make it a little tough. However, they do come out and start the game up 22-3, and caused a second game in our college thing to have a backup quarterback mention. Brent Venables decides, Jackson Arnold, this ain't working. We got to try something else. Michael Hawkins comes in, and Oklahoma does a good job. They score 2 touchdowns. They do fail their 2-point conversions though, and are just not able to really overcome the beginning of the game for themselves. Right, like Hawkins comes in and throws for 130 yards and a touchdown. Also, Jackson Arnold, similar to Alex Orji, went 7 for 16 for 54 yards. He threw a pick though, so yeah, not great things going on in the quarterback zone for some of these guys. But Michael Hawkins Jr. came in, played a little better, got himself a touchdown. Javante Barnes scored a touchdown. For Tennessee, Nico had 200 yards. He had a touchdown. They had Dylan Sampson get 90 yards on the ground with a touchdown. So Tennessee played a good game, not scoring 70. Didn't really think they would against this Oklahoma defense. But Oklahoma, similar to Michigan, had to turn around and look at a backup quarterback after Jackson Arnold through the first half. Really got them nothing. First half, Jackson Arnold got them 3 points. Bring in Michael Hawkins. He makes this game a 25-15 game instead of a 22-3 blowout. Gotta respect him. You think maybe if Michael Hawkins is in the whole game, maybe Oklahoma can pull off the upset, or maybe it's just a more competitive game. Maybe it pushes it to be a shootout. I don't know. Impressive for Oklahoma in this one is that they fight back in the second half with Hawkins and that they hold Tennessee to 25 points. But I think when you look at Tennessee's first 3 opponents, NC State, Chattanooga, and Kent State, maybe I think 51 on NC State is getting less crazy as NC State's season goes on. They have not looked good since. But I would not expect them to put up 50 or 70 or 60 against Oklahoma. So either way, it's impressive for Oklahoma to hold them down. Maybe not so great that they started Jackson Arnold.
Yeah, and I don't want to rag on Jackson Arnold here, um, but all three turnovers in the first half were due to him, and they came in very unfortunate spots.
Yeah.
Had a pick early on in the first quarter, about halfway through the first. Tennessee went on to score the field goal, but like it's some things when you just watch it in real time, it's just like so insanely hilarious. You can't believe it. So Tennessee, Nico, quarterback for Tennessee, he fumbles, right? And Oklahoma, you got the ball at the 5. You've got it at the 5. And then he fumbles. It's like, Jesus Christ. You had it right there. You could have scored. And then again, Tennessee, Nico in his own territory. See, if Tennessee had lost this game, we'd be saying this about Nico because he had multiple fumbles as well.
Yeah.
But he fumbles in Tennessee territory. Oklahoma gets it. Jackson Arnold fumbles again, gets strip sacked. It's out. It's like you cannot do that. Like that is the one thing you can't do is give the opposing team the ball right back after your defense just came up big. The first time, especially when you had it first and goal. I mean, that's the one thing you can't do: turn the ball over within 10-yard line. Within the 10-yard line, they did it. And look, he did. Michael Hawkins came in. He did fight back. But they're really once they got to halftime. To me, the game really wasn't ever in doubt. Even if Tennessee didn't score that much, we saw that they could score quick and fast, on a couple of explosive plays. So, yeah, it wasn't, to me, I feel like this score looks, again, like kind of like the Cowboy-Baltimore game. Closer than it really was, outside of the first quarter and some change. It was clearly all Tennessee the whole time.